Hello everyone, welcome back to Cookbook Chronicles. This is going to be the last recipe we are cooking from Statebird Provisions, the cookbook. You will be learning how to break down a quail, and we're going to marinate it in a little bit of buttermilk with the following spices that you see here. It's just a mixture of delicious spices and pumpkin seeds. And then after that, we'll be making some melted onions, which are fantastic. And finally, you'll be seeing how to fry up the bird and even plate it. It's a wonderful, wonderful recipe, and I highly suggest you stick around and make this recipe at home. Let's get right into it. You'll need quails, Meyer lemons, buttermilk, a little bit of garlic, some salt, pepper, and I haven't broken down quail in a very long time, so doing this was actually fun and brought back many memories of when I used to break down quail at one of my first jobs, and I slightly remembered how to do it. I should have actually taken a second and research how to break it down, but I figured I would just give it a go and show you guys my trials and tribulations. But didn't necessarily do a bad job, and it's very graphic. I'm sorry if you are someone who is very sensitive to seeing something getting butchered. Now, I've chosen to do this as my final recipe for review of the cookbook because it is their golden child of a recipe and dish. It's what the restaurant's named after, and all around is just a marvelous, delicious plate of food. The dish is modeled after one of the dishes that was on the Rubicon menu. Rubicon was another fantastic San Francisco restaurant a very long time ago, and they had a spiced quail dish on there. So that's where this kind of dish comes into play. And Chef Stewart also worked at Rubicon back in the day, hence this dish reappears in a new form. For those of you who haven't tried quail, it is just a slightly gamier version of chicken. As you've been watching me break down this quail, I've cut it in half. This way I have smaller manageable pieces to fry up. And I've removed the rib cage, and now I'll be taking some of the bones away from the thigh area. It is very tedious, but at the same time, you want to replicate the dish that you're going to have at the restaurant. So I made sure that it was going to be enjoyable when I made this. I'm going to take the opportunity to ask if you've enjoyed this video or any of my other previous videos, and you have yet to like and subscribe on any of them. Why not just do it on this one? Give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and stay tuned for just more fantastic cookbook videos. Once I finally have the quail all cleaned up, I'm going to do this same process with the other 6 birds that I happen to buy. And once I have them all cleaned up, I made a little saline bath, just saltwater bath, to help purge a little bit more of the blood and to also get some salt water into these quail to make them a little bit more succulent. But I let them sit in there for maybe 5 minutes just to get more of that blood out. That's the main point. The real marinade comes right here. Once you have all the ingredients into the bowl, mix it together and then remove the quail from the water bath and place them on into the buttermilk. It is best to let these stay and marinate overnight. 24 hours is even better, but I personally wouldn't let them soak for any longer than 48, just because I feel like the texture of the quail is going to get really, really awkward. Now this next step is making the breading, and in order to make this you'll need the following ingredients. You can make this either the day before you're planning on frying up the birds. I made it day of just because I wanted the pumpkin seeds to have a lot of bite to them still, but you go ahead and do whatever you feel is going to be the best for your situation. Here you're going to want to toast your pumpkin seeds. I do these in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for roughly 8 to 10 minutes. So you're going to want to allow your pumpkin seeds to cool down just slightly before you start chopping them. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a real fun time chopping up your pumpkin seeds whatsoever. So it is 24 hours later, and the quail are beautifully marinated, and they're just ready to fry up, or at least almost. Next, we're going to bread them and allow them to sit out for about 30 minutes or so. But you could use the method of keeping one hand dry and one hand wet. I completely failed to do so, but that's perfectly fine. Go ahead and bread all of your quail now. It's going to be best for the texture of the crust if they're allowed to sit out a little bit and just absorb some more of the moisture from the quail themselves. We are so close to battering all of the quail, and once you're finally done, the next step is to cook the melted onions. This was the surprise of the recipe for sure. Like, I've never had onions that are this delicious, and it definitely just reminded me of having it at the restaurant. But this is definitely a recipe I will go back to for my future, just because I really just loved the flavor of these onions. They're that good. And I do highly recommend to make these either while your quail are sitting and resting, or you can make them the previous day, as the recipe does take roughly 45-ish minutes to complete from this step till the very end where they're done. And it's more so that you want the onions to just melt. You don't want them to gain any color either, so definitely take your time and do not rush this step. Even as bad as you may want to, just don't. And it pays off in the end, I promise you. As you're cooking the onions and the butter with the Meyer lemon, rosemary, I highly suggest you keep this on a very low simmer and just don't let it get any color. You don't want to burn your butter, and you don't want any color on your onions, like I stated previously. As the video continues, you'll just see the time lapse of how these onions just start to melt as they're cooking low and slow. It's quite amazing to just watch the different texture and how they become so just delicious. Once your onions are done cooking, you could either keep them warm or cool them down, but this is your final step right here, besides plating, and we're gonna fry up these quail. This is one of those recipes where you don't necessarily want your oil at 350, like most frying recipes want you to have your oil at, but actually you want it at 335. It's okay if it goes above, because as you add quail in, the temperature of the oil is going to drop a little bit, but you do want it between 335 degrees Fahrenheit and about 345 degrees Fahrenheit. As the last pieces of the quail are being fried up, I just want to say thank you for your support so far, and that I can't wait till you're able to try this recipe at home. It, again, is just fantastic, and I'm going to show you how they plate it up at the restaurant. I mean, they probably do it 1,000 times better than I will at home, but the flavors are there, and the plate up, very similar. I enjoyed this meal, I enjoyed making it, and it does just taste like the restaurant. And I just am so shocked that all the recipes that I've tried from the cookbook have been spot on and just absolutely delicious. I do highly recommend going to eat at Sacred Provisions, but if you can't, then get the cookbook and cook from it. It's just like being at the restaurant in the comfort of your own home. If you happen to enjoy this video, please give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and just stick around, because I have more recipes to cook from the hundreds of cookbooks I have at home. Again, many, many thank yous. I appreciate it and would love all your support. Have a good one.